Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of BiblioTech On Air, BiblioTech's official podcast. I'm Rosanna.
I'm Ruby.
And I'm Romeo.
And today we're going to be talking about our latest Libros and Libations pick, Death Valley by Melissa Broder. Just a quick little summary for y'all. In Melissa Broder's astonishingly profound new novel, which I think it came out a couple years ago, so not that new, but still.
2 years ago.
So, okay.
Fairly new.
Ish. We'll just add the ish there.
Okay. So, in Melissa Broder's astonishingly profound newish novel, a woman arrives alone at a Best Western seeking respite from an emptiness that plagues her. She has fled to the California high desert to escape a cloud of sorrow for both her father in the ICU and a husband whose illness is worsening. What the motel provides, however, is not peace, but a path discovered on a nearby hike. So we'll leave it at that, but kind of gives you a little bit of a feel for the book. It's basically about that. This woman goes on a hike.
A journey. Yeah.
To avoid her problems.
As we all like to do.
You know. But I mean, we'll absolutely get into that. And for those of you who might be interested after the end of the discussion, it is available on cloudLibrary, both ebook and audiobook form. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into this discussion.
Sure. Okay, so let's do this. So on page 1, the narrator's friend texts her this philosophical quote from Kierkegaard. It says, quote, "Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced," end quote. So how does this idea resonate throughout the rest of the book?
Nothing was solved in the end. I felt like there was no lesson learned to me personally. I mean, we can get a little deeper into it, but I was just kind of like, it kind of just ended for me. So I was like, I don't know how. Well, I mean, that's true. That's what happens. So I should have known better. I should have expected that to happen.
Yeah, I know we had a lot of robust discussion. I think some people at the book club last night thought that it was a good ending, or at least that it wasn't as open-ended as some of us perceived it to be. I really thought, just like you, Ruby, I thought it was like, that's it? Like, Did she learn anything? Was this like Boy Meets World, 1990s? Like there's a lesson at the end of every episode? Yeah. But I was left like, I don't know what to think. Yeah. It was just so dull. It was underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the ending was very like, what? Mm-hmm. But after the discussion last night, it's kind of like, okay, maybe she did kind of have a smidge of character development.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she did have like a slight change of thought towards her husband.
Yeah,
you know, like
a bit more patient, a bit more compassion.
Compared to the beginning when she was just like looking at him, just like,
ew.
Yeah. But towards the end, she was like starting to look at him in a different light. So.
Yeah, like accepting the bad parts of it all, not just like, oh, the good things aren't happening, let me do.
But I mean, that's life, you know? We don't always learn a lesson in the end. It doesn't always have a happy ending. So I can't be too mad at that.
That's true. I think it was some foreshadowing, though. I think that was done intentionally because when it says, but a reality to be experienced, obviously we'll get into it later, but she goes through an entire experience, a near-death experience. And then I think at some point she does say that she realized that she wanted to live.
Yeah.
So I think there's some foreshadowing there. It was meant to kind of start off that way for because somebody mentioned last night, like, who has friends that sends them these philosophical quotes, like just randomly?
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean?
We'll send each other reels and memes.
I text Rosanna, karma's a bee. I should have known better.
It's just like,
you sent me the entire lyrics to Taylor Swift's new song,
True.
Fate of Ophelia. No, I'm kidding. That did not happen.
That did not.
But we do have the new album on Hoopla, just saying.
Yeah, check it out.
Check it out.
So that was definitely a way to start the book. I will also say that I did appreciate that. Obviously, I did a little bit of the audio, I did a little bit of the physical. The chapters are short, right? You know, they're like a few pages.
There's like almost 60 chapters.
Yeah. So it moved along quickly. I think some books for me, especially fiction books, it's just a way for me to kind of get through it much easier. I can digest it. So I appreciated that. It did kind of hop back and forth through time. So it was kind of like present, then it would go back a little bit to situation with her mom and then with her husband, her dad, her sister. So just, for anybody who's going to read the book, it kind of jumps back and forth. So wanting to feel less alone, the protagonist talks to receptionists, Reddit users, roses, and rocks. Why do you think it's easier for her to talk to strangers and objects than the people she loves?
I kind of liked that. I was like, I sometimes do the same too, or it's like you're thinking an idea and you go to Reddit and be like, am I the a-hole? Look at those forums and just get an insight of what everyone thinks. I don't know if they mention her having a lot of friends. So I don't know, like,
Yeah, that's
if
a good
she
point.
had that option to like talk to friends or talk to family. So maybe, I mean, she was in the Best Western all by herself.
Mhm.
So maybe she was just like going to those online to be able to get insights from other people.
It's a good point. I don't think we talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a really positive way to view that, because we were just kind of like, yeah, no, like she was very like selfish and very, self-serving, trying to get that validation.
Correct. Because we talked about like, because I've gone down Reddit rabbit holes, right?
Like vent, mildly irritating.
Whatever.
Am I the a-hole?
Yeah.
But so somebody, I don't know who mentioned it, but they made a good point. They said, you could have 100 people say everything against you, but you have that one person that says like what you want to hear, and it validates you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And we talked about how, a good point you mentioned, that maybe she didn't have friends, because I don't think they talk about whether she had friends or not in the book, at least not a whole group of friends. But I think it was her way of going to get validation, because maybe she didn't want to hear the truth. Life is hard.
Yeah.
She didn't want her true friends to tell her, well, maybe this is on you, right? So she kind of talked to rocks, and, she talked to the receptionist there at Best Western. I still felt like it was more a way for her to just kind of avoid real life.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think she did have a circle of like author friends, because weren't they like kind of texting about their, like she mentioned in the past, they would text about their book, I think. I don't know how close they were. I don't think it mentions like them being like besties and stuff, but
it was at least,
I think,
at least a circle of friends in terms of like that way to communicate, texting, like a texting circle.
But maybe she just didn't want to bother them. Maybe she's like, I don't feel like bothering them with my problems.
Or maybe she realized she's that friend, and she's just like, they're not going to listen to me.
Oh, true. They're going to tell me what I don't want to hear.
That's the thing too. We brought that up where it's like, you're going to, even if you do have people to talk to, like you're probably going to want to find someone that's, again, going to validate you. So
Correct.
Your friends, IRL friends, like really good friends or family, they're most likely going to call you out like, you're being ridiculous, or like, it's okay to have those thoughts, but also like, you got to kind of nip it in the bud a bit.
True.
So
it's life, dude. Grow up.
Exactly. And I mean, that's probably not something you're going to want to hear.
No, yeah.
Regardless of if they do have a point or don't. And not saying that they will, because, we had another discussion about this, which I'm sure we'll touch on later. Like, you can't just get over things. You have to give yourself time to process all of that.
Correct. I agree. So with that, so just a follow-up question to that. So do you think the talking rocks are an example of magical realism or a fabrication of our lonely narrator's imagination?
Are we going to stop at the rocks there? Because there was also the whole excursion with the bird, the cactus.
I was so confused with the cactus. I was like, what? This is so weird.
What do you think? I truly believed either she's hallucinating due to like heat exhaustion, or I honestly, I felt like it was she was drugged up, whether it's through her meds because of her anxiety and her depression, or like actual drugs. Because why else do you go to I was thinking about this last night afterwards. I'm like, why do you go to a hotel or motel in the middle of a desert? I get it, you're trying to escape, but like, it's just so random to me. So I felt like that whole scene with the cactus was definitely like a drug trip.
I can see that. Like, I was wanting to go to Libros because I was like, maybe someone's going to bring up a metaphor. Like, it was a metaphor for this or this and that. Because in my head, I was just like, she's just digging into a cactus and sitting in there. Why?
We also mentioned the cactus description of that whole scene. That,
That
was
whole
a
scene.
choice.
So we told, we came to a consensus that it was actually smut. This book, because
Yeah, it was a little bit.
because of the description of the cactus.
Yeah.
So fair warning, this book may be a little bit smutty.
Descriptive.
But yeah, no, it was just a whole weird scene. Obviously, was it the saguaro she was claiming it was?
Yeah.
I mean, saguaro, but you don't fit in there. A human can't just crawl in there. So what was she seeing?
Because she said it was like this towering, monumental.
And like the fact that the guy at the Best Western too, he was like, I went down that trail. I did not see a cactus like that. And he took a picture of all the cactus he saw and showed her. And she was like,
You're gaslighting.
Yeah. She's like, what, you think I'm lying? So I'm like,
Yep.
Obviously that cactus doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So there is something going on in her mind.
Like definitely some kind of like psychosis or, delusional.
Manic episode too, probably. She is going through a crazy hard time.
Yeah, but it was a good point that you brought up, like with the drugs, because that had not crossed my mind. Like because she mentions in the book, like she's a recovering drug addict, like over 9 years or something.
Correct,
I think.
correct.
So it's very interesting to think like, yeah, she's going, to the Best Western by herself to just kind of get away from it all. But what if like that's just an excuse? Like what if she's really doing that to like go on a drug binge or something.
Well, I've heard before, not experienced, but I've heard a lot of people will talk about like, whether you do ayahuasca or DMT, those kinds of very psychedelic type of drugs, or even shrooms, that they'll go out to like the beach, they'll go out to the desert and like really take in nature and stuff. So that's why I was like,
maybe that's what was happening.
She's hallucinating on something, right? Again, total assumption. I don't know because they don't make it very clear, but the whole cactus scene was definitely strange. So I was like, okay. Okay. So the novel deals with the concept of anticipatory grief, with each character, which is the narrator, her mother and sister, her husband, and her father himself. They cope in different ways, discuss their different perspectives and behaviors.
I kind of liked that it was giving us a lot of insight on her thoughts. Like when it would be like, she's talking about this, but in her mind, she's like thinking this. I was like, it's fine, like her to feel the way she's feeling. She's valid to feel when she felt a certain way about her dad and her husband. And then she was even feeling bad. Like she was just feeling so bad. Personally, I was like, she shouldn't feel this bad. Cause she was like, I started calling my father's, trachs.
Oh yeah.
Where she was like, I just started calling them trachs instead of the official word. She's like, that's how like normal it is to me, and I shouldn't be feeling this way. Something like that. I was like, girl, give yourself a break. Like it's okay. This is your norm right now. Like don't feel so guilty. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
I think we hear a lot. Like I watched this, I mentioned in another episode, a podcast episode, but I listened to a true crime documentary or a podcast called Crime Junkie. And they always talk about how people grieve differently. And I think what happens is societal norms tell you that like, you're supposed to be sad, you're supposed to cry, you're supposed to do X, Y, Z. So when somebody doesn't act the way that society tells you they should act, all of a sudden it's like, that's not normal. A lot of investigators, when they're investigating crimes, if the partner, who's typically the first suspect, they're acting different from what a grieving partner should do, it's like, well, they're guilty.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, like everybody grieves differently. Some people might actually laugh about it because that's how they cope. Some people might be down and cry. So others might just be like, well, indifferent, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's thinking about grief in that way, realizing that it's different for everybody is like really important to talk about. So.
That's true. I did like, I'm sure she mentioned it somewhere. I can't remember exactly where, but she kind of mentions like not growing too close with certain people sometimes, because she's like, death is inevitable, it'll happen. So when that time comes, like it's easier to not like be so attached. And I was like, I liked that because I sometimes can be like that, with my grief. I'm like, I start like cutting it off and like just dissociating because I'm like, I don't want it to hurt too much when it does happen, So I'm like, that is my kind of thinking. So I did appreciate that too, to read that.
Yeah, that was interesting.
We had a really good talk last night about like, again, you mentioned, grief is different for everyone, but like you can't avoid it. Like you have to let yourself experience those emotions. And it seemed like she really didn't just want to, like she just wanted the bad thing to like kind of
be over,
go away. I want to feel, not like this. I just don't want to feel like this terrible person.
Yeah, Laura mentioned last night that sometimes you gotta face it head on and go through that really difficult time, and you gotta sit in that, right? You gotta sulk in it a little bit and just really go through it, and that's okay, because at the end, on the opposite side is some sort of reprieve, I guess, from that, right? You got to go through it, and everybody just kind of grieves differently. I gave a quick story about like when my grandfather passed away 2 years ago, super close with him, right? And of course, it was sad. I cried and stuff. But I felt okay, right? After. When my grandma died 10 months later, I felt it harder with her. Like it was this like crazy amount of grief. I felt like I was having panic attacks and stuff. And like, I didn't expect it to hit me that way with my grandma. I thought it would be the reverse, but it really wasn't. And it's just like, you just really don't know how you're going to feel and how grief's going to hit you, man. It's tough. So.
And it was interesting too. Someone else brought up like with grief, people are like, you're good to be sad, but the moment the body's like gone, that's it. Get over it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that.
It doesn't, fortunately. So, okay. So weigh in on the debate that the narrator and her husband have regarding the definitions of the words compassion and empathy. What do you think the differences are, and how are these concepts present throughout the story?
We talked a little bit about this before the podcast.
I was telling Rosanna, I was like, in my head, compassion is kind of like you see someone going through a hard time and you're just like, wow, that stinks. Like, I feel for you. Like, I'll be here for you, whatever. I feel like, and for empathy, I feel like you kind of almost go through it with them. It's like, man, this person's going through a hard time. I'm feeling heavy. I'm so worried about this person. I'm going to keep thinking about it in my head. You know, that's how I kind of see it in my head.
Sure.
Because I'm a very empathetic person. So I'm like, anyone around me going through something, I'm just like consistently thinking about it, you know? And I'm like, and I'm feeling it for them too.
Sure.
So I think compassion is just like, it's there, but not as deep as empathy. That's what I think.
Wow, way to make it about you.
I think compassion is more like sympathy, right? Where, like you said, you're there for them. Like, hey, I'm here for you. Like, I can show compassion just by being there for you. But like you said, empathy is going through it with them, or at least maybe you went through it as well.
Yeah.
So you empathize because, like, you know what, I've been there. I know exactly what you're feeling, or at least something similar. But speaking of the argument of her and her husband, like, they had that argument, and then we talked about it last night, how some people will hold that grudge, like, well, I'm not going to text him back, or I'm not going to text her back until, you know, because I don't want to apologize, and the other one doesn't want to apologize. And in this case, it got her in trouble because they weren't talking.
She got lost.
Her phone died, and like, it was just a mess. So it kind of led her to be in that situation, that unfortunate situation she was in, where she basically almost died. So it was crazy. That's the kind of grudge she held. So
yeah,
I think it's funny because like karma got to her, obviously. Because I was telling Rosanna, like, at the beginning of the book, I was like, I like this book. You know, like, to me, I feel like this would be like something if I wrote a book, because the way her inner thoughts are, I'm like, I have those same inner thoughts. So when she was going through that, like, I'm not going to text back because he didn't text me back. He left me worrying, so I'm going to leave him worrying. I'm going to go get lost in the desert now, so someone has to care for me, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like we all have that kind of thought sometimes, but this actually happened to her. And then she's stuck like, well, damn, no one knows I'm here now. And I'm lost. I didn't really want to be lost. I just wanted people to care about me.
yeah, she's stuck with this cactus and rocks
and the bunnies
and everything else she saw out there on her drug trip. I'm telling you, that was a drug trip.
And also, it does get a little graphic at times, you know, what with the explosive diarrhea.
Oh,
and,
dude, yeah.
I actually,
bloody broken leg or whatever.
I actually like the diarrhea part. Not trying to be gross, but because I was saying that, like, even in World War II, like, a lot of these soldiers died from dysentery and stuff, and people don't talk about that because it's gross and stuff. But like, yeah, she was severely dehydrated. She was near death. Of course, she was her bowels were just gonna be loose. So I thought that part was actually kind of funny, but also like, damn, like, that's probably what would really happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah. Thought it was interesting. I don't know. Okay, so what was your reaction when the narrator discovered the giant cactus on the trail? What did you think of the event that transpired within it? So we kind of already touched on that, but it was just weird.
I wanted someone so bad to tell me that it was like a deep metaphor for something else, because I'm like, I didn't understand it completely.
I mean, it was definitely like a little reflection station for her, because, you know, she encountered like the different iterations of her husband, her dad, like her dad growing up throughout the years, him as a kid, him when he's a little older. I don't still quite understand the meaning of that. I will be 100% honest.
That's true. I forgot about that when she said that she would talk to like the teen version of her dad, or like the younger version of. I was confused on those parts. I was like, why?
Yeah.
And they were singing the Shaboom song. No copyright. But I thought it was going to add something, but this is where we went last night when we talked about it. We thought it was a little strange that she was saying that her husband now, who's in a wheelchair and stuff, she wasn't attracted to him anymore. Like, she didn't feel it, but then yet she had this vision of her husband as a teen, and she was talking about like kind of being more attracted to him there. So I was like, that's kind of
very
weird,
questionable.
That's a weird place to go. And then she even talks about wanting to sleep with both of the receptionists at Best Western. And okay, she's yearning for something else, right? Maybe intimacy, whatever. But it was just very weird where she went with a lot of her thoughts. I thought it was, again, I'm trying not to judge, but it was just strange.
Yeah, definitely. It really does kind of push forth the theory of like, she must have been on drugs.
Yeah.
No, I did. Sometimes people have weird thoughts. Like, sometimes, you know.
She did a couple of weird things in the book that she didn't have to do.
I'm like, some people, everyone has weird thoughts.
No,
sometimes.
for sure.
There's definitely weird thoughts. Like, we're not going to,
we're not
dismiss
gonna that and say that everyone's on drugs. That has weird thoughts.
But I mean, in the context of everything for here.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. She's grieving too.
Good point.
going through her own stuff.
But also as a reader, we're allowed to be a bit more judgy because it's not happening to us. And we kind of, again, have that sense of thought where it's like, this is how it should be happening.
Sure.
You know? But on the flip side, we're like, well, no.
Here I am being a hypocrite. I'm over here like, we don't know how people grieve. But then I'm like, well, she's weird. So
Yeah.
my bad. I retract that statement.
So it's kind of calling us out a little bit too.
Okay, so most of the communication in the novel happens over text, email, or video calls, while our protagonist is otherwise isolated. How do her communication habits impact her relationships for better or worse? And what does silence or the speed of response communicate in an era of constant connection? So we talked about that. I know Laura mentioned how some individuals, for example, let's just say I send Rosanna a text and I'm expecting Rosanna to text me back right away. But Rosanna's like, oh, I saw Romeo's text, but like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
I'll text him back in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm over here dying, losing it. Like, why isn't she texting back? And then your mind goes to dark places. So I think the immediacy of what technology provides these days, it kind of messes with our forms of communication, how we communicate with people. So
pretty bad. I think it gives just everyone anxiety because like I'm being the person who sent the text, you're obviously having anxiety about waiting for the person to respond.
Correct.
But also that person reading it, like I'm that type of person. I read it, set aside, and then I'm like, I should reply to that. I should reply to that. Even though if I'm busy doing things, I'm like, I got to reply to that. And then sometimes I'll even let it go for days. And I'm like 3 days later and just like still haven't responded. I'm like, I got to reply to that.
Dang.
So it
Romeo,
just gives,
the
I feel like it gives
backed up. Please respond at your earliest convenience.
And I'm there like, I'll respond to that in 3 days. Like Ruby.
3 days.
Pull a Ruby and wait 3 days on that. But like, I mean, there's a lot to be said about not only modes of communication, but like just how we communicate in general. Maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know, but a lot of people shy away from like that human connection. We talked about her going on Reddit earlier, and she was seeking validation from complete strangers versus saying, you know what, I want to have this tough conversation with a friend, with a family member. I think a lot of it is just avoidance of what is, right? What life is and how tough it can be. I will tell you that sometimes, somebody leaves you on read, that can be annoying because like they read it.
Yeah.
And you're just there like, well, why didn't you respond to it? You read it.
Well, they probably mentally responded and then started doing something else and then was like.
Ruby leaves everybody on read. That's why.
Because sometimes I mentally respond and I forget and I'm like, I did not actually respond.
But it also depends on like, if you know the person and their character, like, if you respond to someone and they don't like respond immediately, like say a friend or something, you're like, they probably forgot, like, But then in this case where it's like, with her husband where they're like responding immediately and then there's just that sudden silence, at that point, something's wrong. Like, and if she obviously doesn't know that he dropped the phone in the toilet.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's going to think the worst, like, oh, he's mad at me, or what if he had an accident, or da-da-da-da-da. So I think it just depends on how well you know that person and their
good point,
their habits too.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. The danger with that is she even mentions in the book that he replies really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So when he's not replying, her mind went to the worst places, right? So sometimes maybe responding too quick is like kind of a bad thing too, because now that expectation is that, hey, Roman's going to respond in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, dude, chill, right?
Yeah.
So
we just got to go back to pigeon mode.
Right.
Pigeon carriers.
There you go. So, okay. So the novel challenges ideas of grief and what you're supposed to feel. We talked about this. So just for some context, right? So in an interview with Vanity Fair, Broder, who's the author, says that after her own father died, she became concerned with her own grief. And she said, quote, I was pushing myself to move it along, mostly because I wanted to feel better, end quote. How has grief in your own life been shaped differently from what you might have expected?
I feel like, that's the typical feeling around grief. Like people want to just get it over with and move on with their lives because they're like, life keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everyone feels like that's how they're supposed to feel. I don't know, because it also reminds me of there's a certain part in the book where she's talking about when her dad is kind of like hallucinating, or not hallucinating, but just like, I think they were like pretending certain scenarios or something, like he was thinking certain things that weren't really happening.
They were like playing along with it.
And then she like asked the nurse or someone and she was like, is it okay that I go along with this? And the nurse was like, yeah, that's fine. As long as it's not like dark, or like scary, something that he feels anxiety for. But if it's just something like innocent, like, yeah, go along with it,
Yeah.
So I was like, the fact that she had to even question herself was like, is this the right thing I'm supposed to do? Am I not supposed to feed into these delusions that he's having?
Yeah.
And I'm like, obviously me now, I'm just like, yeah, that's okay. Like we should be able to feel these things and get away from the reality a bit.
Yeah.
I think we need to normalize just saying like, hey, that's how they're going through it.
Yeah.
That's it, right? I mean, I may think that I'm going to experience it one way, but then I go through it and I'm like, holy crap, that's not even how I thought I was going to go, right? Like I told, like the story I told about my grandpa and grandma. So you just really don't know. But I think getting away from the typical, you're supposed to act this way, you're supposed to feel this way. It's like, look, man, I mean, everybody's life is different.
Mm-hmm.
The foundation for how you were raised and where you're currently at in your life, you could be in a good place, a bad place. Everybody's going to grieve a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think we need to normalize just being like, hey, like, you know, let them feel it.
Mm-hmm.
However they need to feel it, let them go through it in that way. And whether they're not grieving long enough, like she mentioned straight up, like, I just wanted to feel better. So she wanted it to be over. I think that's okay. That's how she processed it. And I think that's why this character in the books, after reading this interview with Vanity Fair, it made more sense to me because as I'm reading this book, I'm like, man, she really wants her dad to just die.
Yeah.
She talked about unplugging him and then the mom said, don't do it. And he ended up living.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like she wanted him to die, but I get it now after reading this. I'm like, oh. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a very valid feeling. I see it with like watch some movies with drug addiction as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's parents that are like sitting in those drug counseling, like, oh, I have like a son that is a drug addict, whatever, and they're in the counseling, and then people are just talking like they kind of want it to be over and done with. Because they're like grieving them the entire time that they're still alive.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very, very hard thing to deal with and go through.
Yeah.
So it's okay to feel when some people are just like, man, I just kind of wish they would do it and it'd be over and done with.
Yeah.
So I don't have to keep grieving this long.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
That's a crazy, crazy feeling.
Absolutely.
And we got some really good perspectives at Libros too, because on one hand, in relation to the book as well, because on one hand, I think it was Bernice, she was saying that at the time when she had read this book, because when she read it the first time, she had just lost a relative and was kind of going through it, managing everything.
Sure.
And so it really hit for her, you know. On the flip side with Laura, even though she spoke about her mother's grief and she really like made the point known, like, I let myself go through it. Like I had to experience it and just kind of live that.
Correct.
Even with their like her vivid description as well of everything she went through, she still didn't quite like enjoy the character in this book or like enjoy the book itself.
Sure.
But it's valid because again, it just goes back to the whole everyone does their own thing and experiences grief differently.
Yeah.
The only thing I would disagree on is like when everyone's going through grief differently is when it becomes detrimental to their own health.
Okay.
Like, you know, like if they're out doing things they shouldn't be, like maybe,
Oh yeah.
you know,
finding
like drugs or drinking or, you know,
I'm drinking and then
being
driving right
promiscuous
after.
or stuff like that, you know.
I agree.
Like,
At some point, you probably do have to step in and say, hey, this is not healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hurt yourself or somebody else.
like, you know, you're still allowed to grieve. You just got to find I don't want to say healthier outlet because that sounds kind of mean, but I mean, when you compare it to what they're doing in that scenario, then, but yeah,
Just a safer outlet.
exactly.
Drink at home, stay at home. You know, whatever you're going to do, cry at home.
At least if you die at home, we'll know where to find you.
Just stay at home, Romeo died. Okay. So how do you think the narrator's brush with mortality influences her outlook in life by the end of the novel?
I kind of, that was interesting because she put herself in that situation. Like I had mentioned that with her dad, you know, that's something out of her control. It was a car accident.
Correct.
With her husband, that's an unidentified illness that, again, that's something out of her control. So like, you know, it's not like they chose to be in that situation, but with her going out to the desert and kind of willingly putting herself in that danger, you know, it's hard to be a bit more sympathetic to her because it's like you actively chose to go into the desert and put yourself in danger. But I mean, we spoke about it earlier too, how that kind of finally pushed her to be like, I don't want to die. I want to live. After going through all these, you know, like trials and tribulations of not having enough water, of practically getting the skin sunburnt off of me, you know, breaking my limbs. You know, I had to put myself in this situation to finally realize maybe I don't want to die. But also if she was going to die, it was going to be probably the most horrible way compared to like her family. So
she was going to be found with diarrhea all over herself.
Wrapped in an army jacket.
Yeah, no, I think I know we talked about this earlier. I just feel like I mean, it certainly influenced her in a way. She did mention she didn't want to die. She had that realization or the epiphany, but I also was left, it was still unclear to me where that was going to take her. Like, did she really change? Like, or is it just going to be a temporary thing and she's just going to kind of resort back to whatever it is?
Probably.
You know what I mean? That's just kind of, I was a little confused. I wanted a more polished ending, but at the same time, you can't have it.
That's life.
So, yeah.
Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced.
To bring up a quote from the book.
Came full circle there. So.
Honestly, it really did. It really did. Because again, she didn't solve any of her problems. She just kind of experienced it, went through it, and...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The foreshadowing, it just was like she had to experience it. There you go. Kierkegaard was right. So have you ever found yourself in a dangerous situation because you underprepared, and how did you handle it? So Sylvia at book club, she had a really good example of how, long story short, her and her friend, they were out hiking. I don't know which park she said, but there was a state park, and they underprepared big time, and they just kind of got lost, didn't have enough water, and they were like, holy crap. Luckily, they found their bearings and they were able to go down the little narrow path and they made it back. And she said that the park rangers were just kind of like, oh, there y'all are. Like, we're just, didn't know when y'all were going to make it back.
Oh my God.
She was like, y'all expected us not to make it back?
She was like, the trail's 1 hour. We were gone for 3.
Oh
and if
my
we hadn't
gosh.
seen, she said by chance, if we hadn't seen the tiny, because the marker was like really small.
Yeah.
She was like, if we hadn't turned around and seen the marker when we did, we still would have been lost.
Yeah. And I told her, I said, I don't think the Rangers were expecting you to die. I just think they probably told themselves, look, if they're not back by 7,
we're going to go out.
We're going to go out, right? Because some people walk at a different pace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably still got to look for them though. But yeah, a couple hours later, it's like, whoa, something's up.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a... Because I mean, I get going on impulse, like you might go to like a park or something, you want to be in nature, or, you go somewhere... You might not have everything because you're going on impulse, but you'll have at least sense to be like, okay, well, my phone has some bars, or,
Sure.
let me go buy like a bottle of water before I go out on this little nature walk or whatever. But homegirl.
Just went out with nothing.
She's like, let me take my rocks and I'm good. And I'll just suck on these rocks or something. Because like, I don't know what her problem was. No, but like I made the point yesterday that a lot of people don't realize that when you hydrate, so for example, if you're hydrating today, you're actually hydrating for tomorrow. So you're supposed to drink enough and plenty today so that tomorrow you're not as thirsty, right? Now you're still going to lose a lot. You're going to still have to drink water. But it won't hit you as bad, right? Obviously, you're stuck in a desert for hours and hours and hours. It's going to hit you regardless. But if you hydrate well enough the day before, you should be okay with like a single bottle, right? So long as you're not out there for too long. But I think that's where she definitely underprepared. She thought it was going to be a quick little thing. And all of a sudden, she's like, she hurts herself and she can't do anything. So.
I think she wanted to get lost. Like, I think she wanted this to happen. Like, she wanted something to, like, that's why she was so unprepared. Yeah. Because, like, just to feel something, Like, yeah, you put yourself in dangerous situations sometimes just to feel something. Like Bella from Twilight, when she was riding the motorcycle at fast speed on the mountain, she just wanted to feel something.
She wanted to see or hear Edward.
Yes, exactly.
You know what? You're right, though. Now that you mentioned that, I think she wanted to be, she wanted somebody to look for her. She wanted to be found by people because she kept saying like, well, it's been 24 hours. She was like saying, but then when this happens, like they probably won't look for me until like 40 hours. And she was like really thinking about it. I think she really wanted to be found by people.
I think she had like a little bit of a victim. Like I feel like she wanted to feel like the victim at most times, because she mentions it as well. Yeah. When her dad was in the hospital and she was like, man, sometimes I wish that was me, to be in like all you have to do is just be in the hospital, just lay in bed and get rest and like have people bring you your medication, your food, things like that.
If only it were that simple.
Yeah. Like she was looking at it, like glorifying it in a way. And I was like, I think she just like likes feeling like the victim sometimes. I mean, instead of, and right now she has to be like the strong person, so.
Which is normal. I mean, not saying that you should want to go lie in a hospital bed, for a vacation a few days off, but it is normal to kind of want to have that load off. Yeah. Like, I wish I wasn't dealing with this right now.
On the flip side, I would have been like, in this economy, I want to go to a hospital.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, 500K.
You know what? On that That's a good point. You know what? Heck it. Go get lost at a park. That's going to be a lot cheaper,
Exactly.
You know, at that point, you probably don't have to worry about a funeral if you aren't found. Vultures pick you clean. I mean...
Explosive diarrhea, bill for life. Explosive diarrhea. I'll go with the explosive diarrhea.
You know, when you put in perspective like that, it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, that's crazy though. Okay, so what were your overall thoughts on this book? Did you like it or dislike it?
At first, I didn't like. Well, I had mixed feelings. At first, I liked it, and then I read more, and then I didn't like it. But then now, I think it brought up really good discussions, so I do like it for that.
Same. It when it started out, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting, and then it just kind of.
Yeah.
But then when she got lost in the desert again, it was like, oh, okay, something's gonna happen, and then she was lost in the desert, and then she was lost in the desert.
Yeah.
And then she found a trail she recognized, and then she was lost in the desert. So it really did kind of just petered out for me. It was one of those that like a bottle rocket, you know, like excitement dies. But like Ruby said, it made for a great discussion. I mean, Libro's discussion it popped off.
Yeah.
The talks that we've had here, like it's definitely, I don't know if I would recommend it per se, but like maybe if you're going to read it in a book club setting, then
I would recommend it to talk about it. Because everyone that I've talked to about this book, I liked the conversation. I'm like,
definitely.
Yeah, dude, we're like, yeah, this book was bad, but this is, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, I liked that.
Yeah.
I think that's all valid. I agree with you 100% there. I didn't care for the book. I think it started off, it had potential. And then it just kind of just went downhill for me. I didn't really care for it, but it did spark a lot of really interesting discussion about life and grief and death and everything. And I just think for that reason, I would elevate it a little bit. But I agree with you, Rosanna, that I would recommend it as a book club type read, but not as a solo read. Like if you're just going to sit and sulk in your thoughts, it's like, what did I read?
Yeah.
But if you know you're going to go with a group and just kind of have a discussion, I would certainly recommend it. So it wasn't the worst book we've read. So.
Which is interesting because you don't go into that like, you know, you don't throw that recommendation out there thinking like, oh, it'll be great for like a group discussion. You're just like, oh, I just want to read it because.
Yeah.
True. So.
I was a breath of fresh air for me though, because I had read it immediately after reading Calabasas, which is so dense. And then this one was just like,
Yeah.
So I was like, I liked that transition.
Yeah.
There's another book I had read, which is right before this one, which funny enough was about grieving too, called The Friend. And it's about this semi-autobiographical, I guess. Autobiography. Yeah.
Biographical.
Anyway, no, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so it's called The Friend, and basically the MC is an author, and her very, very close author friend, who she had a very intimate relationship with, intimate in the sense like that they were super, super close.
Sure.
But he dies, and he's had like 3 wives, and so his third wife calls her over, and she's like, "Hey, I know you're going through this. With that said, your friend that died, he had this dog. Can you take the dog?" And so it's about her process of like grieving while making sure that this dog has like the best care as she grows closer to it. And it was just really interesting to see like that grief because it was very stream of consciousness. And while I was reading that book, it was like, why is she saying all this? Like, I don't understand what this has to do with the book and the dog. Like, I want to read more about her and the dog, the relationship. And it was like, you know,
back to back,
speckled in parts. But like when I read the end of the book and I was like, oh wow, that was interesting. Yeah. And at the moment, like the ending didn't do anything to me. But now when I think about the ending, I'm just like, ow. But it was interesting because her grief was very like reminiscent of like things that reminded her of the author, situations they were in, her just reflecting on like moments together. It was very different compared to, you know, the manicness of it was depressive versus like manic.
Yeah.
So it was just like, you know, very interesting.
Yeah.
That I read them so close together and just to see like different perspectives of like how grief manifests itself.
That's good. I'll definitely check that one out. So just to wrap this up before we talk about our next read, what are y'all currently reading other than the book club books?
Frankenstein. I'm excited for the Guillermo del Toro movie to come out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, dude, yes. Let me immerse myself in this realm again. Gothic horror.
Oh, 100%.
'Tis the season.
Exactly. Spoopy season.
Yes.
Spoopy season. Malena said she got that one for her and she got like the young like adult or youth version for her daughter so they can read
cool.
it. Yeah. So
love that.
That's cool.
It's going to be a fun one. You'll enjoy it probably.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I read it in high school, but I don't remember because I was forced to read it. So I'm reading for fun.
Yeah. That's fun. Rosanna, what are you reading?
So I'm reading a couple manga series. I'm right now on volume 6 of I'm in Love with the Villainess, cute little series. And then I also started reading Between Two Rivers, which is a history about like ancient Mesopotamia. So I haven't gotten super far, but I really like it. It's pretty interesting. Hopefully it stays interesting and doesn't just kind of like, info dump.
Sure.
But it doesn't strike me as going that route. And then there's another one, which I'm going to bring up because we were talking, Bernice had a bookmark for the author. It was a book called Kiss Me Maybe, and I bought it and I was like, oh, this looks cute. And then sure enough, she had the bookmark for it. I was like, I bought that book. So
sounds good. I'm reading the next book club book, of course, but then also Prequel by Rachel Maddow. So it's a hefty book, very, very deep nonfiction. But it's basically just the true story of the American Nazi invasion in 1930, 1940, pre-World War II and post-World War II, where like even before the Red Scare, where there were Nazis in the United States and that ideology had to die. So it was it's the fight that these other Americans had to get rid of Nazism here in the United States. It's really good.
That's very apt or appropriate for the time we're in.
I know. I'm like, man, you're living it out here and in the.
That's how I'm reading it. I'm like, is this 2025? No, it's
you're really
41 or whatever.
Yourself.
Yeah, interesting book though. So that's what I'm reading. But
and just a heads up, the next book is going to be Jurassic Park, which for those of you who did not know, yes, it is a book, and it is also a movie. But it's available only on eBook form on cloudLibrary. So make sure you check that out if you want to join. I'm pretty excited to read this one because I, for the longest time, did not know Jurassic Park was a book.
I'm excited. I've never even seen the movies. So this is going to jumpstart everything for me.
I've seen the originals, but never like the newer ones that
Jurassic
came out.
World.
the Jurassic World ones.
So
I'm excited.
Yeah, I was aged myself because Ruby was saying she was born like right after the first movie.
Yeah.
I was over here like, I saw it at the movies. And I was like, wait,
You're
that's
like,
a long time ago.
damn.
Yeah. That was an experience to see the original. Man, what a time.
Hopefully maybe this discussion will get it to
I know, come out in theaters
theatrical
again.
release Like, hey, one night only for all you book club readers.
There you go.
But yeah, make sure y'all check that out if you're interested. And again, Death Valley, if that's something you think you might be into, make sure you go to our resources, get a library card, check it out on cloudLibrary, ebook, and audiobook form. But yeah, that's going to be it from us today.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of BiblioTech On Air. I'm Rosanna.
I'm Ruby.
And I'm Romeo.
And we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.